Welcome to the Seven Figure Builder Show. My name is Julie Baranek, founder of Seven Figure Builder, where we help high achieving CEOs work smarter, not harder, with gorgeous insights to scale to seven figures and beyond. And I'm here today with my good friend, Nicole Cramer, who I am thrilled to have on today. Hey, Nicole.
Hi, Julie. Thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Absolutely. So, first and foremost, where in the world are you?
I am in Nashville, Tennessee.
Nice. I love Nashville. That's one of my favorite spots to go.
Fun place, isn't it?
Definitely. So, for people that haven't had the pleasure of meeting you yet, can you tell us just a little bit about what you do with your business?
Yes, I am a sales coach, which is a very vague term because what that means could mean something different to everybody. So essentially, I help people make more sales without a lot of complex tactics and strategies, but through the power of conversation and relationship building and understanding buyer psychology, what makes people buy, and how can we have conversations that allow them to arrive at that decision so that it's their decision and everybody feels good about moving forward.
I love it. So I'm just going to dive right in. But for most people, sales feels gross. Like people don't like to sell, they don't like to be sold to. So
Yeah.
I know you do something totally different than most people, but can you share with us just a little bit about how your technique is totally different?
Yeah, it's so interesting because sales does feel gross. It feels gross when I'm a sales coach and I can say that when we are coming in with our own agenda, when we're coming in attached to the outcome. And where I think a lot of people go wrong in the sales process is that's exactly how they approach it. Like, I've got to make this sale, or I need this client, or I want this client, or I've got a business that has goals and where I really think we gain a lot of traction and gain customers actually even faster is when we take the time to allow people to feel seen and heard and cared about by having conversations, asking questions, and allowing them to come into these realizations that, oh my gosh, I do need support with this thing, or I do need help here. And it's a very different conversation when you're coming in with curiosity versus coming in with certainty. And that's where a lot of people go wrong. They come in like, I know I can help this person. I've got to figure out how to have this conversation so that they make a decision by the end, versus coming in with curiosity. And not just curiosity, let me see if I can help this person, but curiosity in helping that person explore their own realization that they want help, that they want support. So it really is a way to have conversations, build relationships with people, and create opportunities from there, because people are realizing, oh my gosh, I do need this thing. I do want help. And it's because we're asking the right questions.
And totally. And I think the difference there too is the lack of desperation, right? Like when we are coming in with a set agenda, like you said, and goal in mind, like you just reek of I need this sale, and that just turns people off right away.
Right.
It's totally
Yeah.
different.
Well, we're making it about us, right? And that's where it starts to feel icky. It feels icky to us. It feels icky to the person that we're asking to buy, because we're coming in with our own agenda. And I like to say, everybody listens to the same radio station. What's in it for me? And when you're coming in so sure that they need what you have, when you come in with certainty, you miss the mark. When you come into the conversation with curiosity, you're helping explore. You're both exploring what's there and truly finding out, is this something that I can really help you with? Right? So when we come in with certainty, it creates sales friction. It's a big turnoff for people, and they feel that. And that's what feels icky.
Totally. And I mean, we're all so busy, and this sounds like a process, right? Like you have to take the time to get to know somebody. So
Mm-hmm.
how can we shift our mindset? Like, what do you tell people to just slow down and like really engage with people?
Such a good question. I like to say slow it down in order to speed it up, because it doesn't feel that way when you're doing it, right? It does feel like a process. When we slow it down, it feels like, oh, I should be asking this person to buy from me. I should be asking for the business. I should be pushing the sale. But that doesn't feel good to us. That doesn't feel good to them. We can't control when people buy. At the end of the day, we cannot control when people buy. Some people are now buyers. Some people are later buyers. It's soon buyers. Maybe I'll buy soon. But if we slow the process down, if we enter the conversation with curiosity, and if we really take the time to show that person that we care and that we're hearing them, right? They want to be seen and heard, and they want to be cared about. then what it does is it creates that opportunity for them to want to step closer to us instead of us trying to just force the situation to happen. And because we can't control when people buy, we really don't have, like, that's not our decision to make anyways, right? When somebody's going to buy. So ultimately, if we are willing to slow it down and build relationships, and we're doing that and planting seeds everywhere we go, everybody that we meet, then what we're doing is attracting people to us, wanting to step closer to us, wanting to work with us, versus us saying, you should buy from me. Let's do this now.
Yeah. No, I love that. I love that. And there are so many sales coaches out there, right? Like, how did you get to where you are? What sets you apart? And, what brought you to this point in your career?
It wasn't a straight line.
It
But
really is.
right. I think most people can say that about whatever they're doing. It probably was not a straight path to get there. It's ironic because I did not want to be a sales coach. I didn't even think that was it. I didn't see that in my future. I used to be a high school teacher and decided that sales sounded really fun and exciting and like a game. And so I was like, let me try it. And through the power of conversation and connection, I had a friend who was like, hey, I want to hire you to be, in sales. He was a sales manager. And I said, I just want to be number one in the nation. That was my whole goal. It sounded really fun. It sounded really cool. I didn't know how hard it should be. So he hired me. I started working there. And my first day, I was like, I want to be number one. And they all laughed me out of the room. And where there's a will, there's a way. And honestly, I was just oblivious enough, Julie, to not know why it shouldn't happen, if that makes sense. Like, I didn't understand that was like a really hard thing to do. And that somebody like me who was coming in brand new shouldn't do it. And I ended up doing it. I did it in a year and a half. I became the number one person. And, to me, it's always been about relationships. And let me just go back for a second. When I was a teacher and I first decided that I wanted to be in sales, I went for an interview and I did not get this interview. But during the interview, my fear was that the guy was going to say, you only have teaching experience. You don't have sales experience. And when I got done with the interview, it went really well. And he goes, I got to be honest with you, you knocked it out of the park. I'm really impressed, but you're a teacher and he held up my resume. He said, you just have teaching experience. It's going to be a hard time for me to hire you over the 89 internal people who want this position. I said, well, I sold math to high school teenagers for 15 years and that wasn't an easy sell. And he looked at me, he goes, oh, you're good. That's really good. And honestly, I can tell you now, Julie, number one, I did not have that prepared. That just came through me. That was not me, going, this is what I'm going to say. And two, I now know I said that more for me. I didn't know it at the time, but what that meant to me years later is exactly what sales is to me. I was selling math and I did have a bunch of high school kids sitting in every class on every day that didn't want to learn the math. So how did they learn it? Not because there was a transaction, but because there was a relationship, there was an experience. And to me, when I said that to that guy in that interview, I went, oh my gosh, that's what sales is. It's the transfer of enthusiasm. It's my excitement about math. And they had to do the math in order to graduate high school. So they had to be there anyways. We might as well make it fun. And when I realized that that's all we're ever really doing in sales is we're building a relationship and we're helping somebody with a problem they have to solve. That's all it is. Selling is serving. So cut to, I became a health coach. I was working in my corporate job. I was number one in the nation and was trying to exit my corporate job in order to go into health coaching. And I was surrounded by health coaches that were not doing anything with their certification. And I was like, why aren't you guys helping people? And they were like, we don't want to sell. We feel pushy. We feel aggressive. So I started helping all of my health coaching friends. And that's when one day one of them looked at me and said, you need to do this. I said, what? She goes, you need to help health coaches learn how to sell. There's too many of us that aren't doing anything because we're afraid of it. And you have all the success in the world, in the sales world. Help us learn how to sell. And in that moment, I realized, oh my gosh, I am passionate about this. I do love it. And that's my way of making this world a healthier place, is by empowering coaches with the skills that they need to make the sales that grow their business and allow them to help more people. So in that, a sales coach was born, and here I am years later, still doing it.
I love it. It's such a powerful story. And I mean, you had the most, we'll say, unruly, uncooperative audience, I would assume, as high school students, knowing my own children.
I sure did. I will say that probably gave me the best sales experience of all.
100%. Absolutely. So do
Yeah.
you have like a framework that you use, or how do you help people in that journey?
I do have a couple different things. I teach on my own framework, what got me to where to where I was at number one, and what has made me a very successful business owner and has helped many of my clients. I call it the Nicole Cramer method. It's all relationship and conversation based so that you understand how to have conversations that get you more clients. And then I also teach a methodology around exactly what to say. So my biggest skill set is helping people know what to say in their sales conversations so that they get more conversions. And that is a methodology that I absolutely love because I used it when I was in corporate, and I've now been trained in the program. And so that is a big piece of what I teach as well. And it really, like, there's 4 cornerstones that are really, really important. The first one is the worst time to think about what you're going to say is the moment you're saying it. It might seem really simple and it might seem really like, duh, of course, but like most people aren't doing it. They're not thinking ahead to their critical conversations. They're not asking themselves, what do I have coming up today that's really important? Or how can I get better at my sales conversations that I have all the time, right? Conversations with team. How can I improve in those areas? Like, where are your critical conversations, and are you actually building skill sets so that you're improving in those conversations? So that's the first cornerstone. The second one, I've talked a little bit about it today. It's curiosity is the fuel for great conversations. And I love all 4 of the cornerstones, but honestly, I would say curiosity is probably my favorite because it will absolutely get you so far in a conversation. People love talking about themselves. They love sharing about themselves. And when you stay curious long enough, they will arrive at a decision for themselves. So curiosity is a tool for us to show that we care about somebody and allow them to feel seen and heard. And what that does when you're asking questions, when you're learning about somebody, it dances you into empathy, which is the third cornerstone. The third one is people do things for their reasons, not yours. So ultimately, when we understand nobody's coming onto a sales call because you want them there. So in that sales conversation, are you taking the time to stay curious and understand why they are there? What made them want to give up their time, right? Time is the most valuable thing anybody could ever pay us with. Why is somebody in that conversation with you? And if you haven't taken the time to stay curious and become relatable to them by building empathy, then you're not actually saying, I care about you. You're really saying, I'm here for me. I care about me, right? So staying curious, building that empathy is really powerful. And then what that does is it gives you the courage to ask the hard questions, right? I remember one of the first times this ever happened to me with my very first business coach. I got on a call with her and she asked me all the reasons why I was there and what was going on and what I was struggling with. And I said all the things. And then when it came time to make a decision about whether or not I wanted to work with her and move forward, I balked. I was a little bit scared. And because I had poured my heart out, because I had said all those things, she asked me this question, which was really powerful and really courageous. She said, Nicole, are you more committed to your dreams or your comfort zone?
Hmm.
And in that moment, it was like, she wasn't saying, I think you should do this, because she was saying, help me understand. Are you more committed to your dreams or your comfort zone? Because I heard you say that these are things that you really want to do. And when we have the courage to ask those types of questions, we're actually in service to the other person, right? Because what else was I there for? To complain for 25 minutes about all the things that I hadn't been able to figure out on my own, and then all of a sudden to turn around and go back to where I was? No, we owe it to the person who has shared that with us to ask those challenging questions. And the only way we can ask those challenging questions without sounding like a jerk is if we've taken the time to stay curious and build empathy and truly understand that person and where they're coming from. So that's the fourth cornerstone. It's the person in control of the conversation is the person asking the questions. And when we've taken the time to stay curious and we've taken the time to build that empathy, then that courage naturally is there for us to ask some of those hard questions. And that's where we build the trust with the other person. So those are the cornerstones that I teach on, along with my own methodology, so that people really understand the approach to the conversations that will give them the outcomes that they want.
Yeah, which is why you rest on the conversations, right? It's that interaction, that relationship, that trust building, that all of it together, not just a pitch. It's not a
Right.
script that you read to somebody. Anybody can do that and nobody's going to get a sale from it, or very few.
Right.
Do
Yep.
you find the same approach, the same reaction to both male and female? Do you find differences there?
That's a really good question. I will say I don't love to genderize things, but there is a difference between how men and women sell in many cases. Women tend to be a little bit more tentative around building some of that courage, but that's why when we approach the conversation truly from a place of, I'm serving this person, I'm helping this person, I'm just exploring the conversation, and I'm going to ask questions that allow me to stay curious and not come in certainty, right? Because when we come with that certainty, it creates sales friction. I find that women do better with that. I find that once they understand how to be curious and how to ask questions, that they actually are okay with not being in such a rush. They're okay with really exploring and allowing that other person to arrive at a decision. And women tend to be really great at building relationships as well. Not that men aren't, but I do find that, at least in my work, and I work with predominantly women, it's an approach that makes them feel really good about what they're doing.
Yeah. Well, we're natural at wanting to help people, at least a lot of us are. And so you get into that helping role versus that pushy,
Right.
sales role.
Right.
And how have you found that, or have you found that body language and tone play into the whole experience?
Yeah, it's so much of it. I mean, tone, depending on how you're asking a question, you can sound like an asshole or you can sound like a really helpful, supportive person, right?
Same word.
You're right. Same words. I mean, because it's never the words, right? And I think that this is a really, really important thing to remember. People are never going to remember what you said or did. They will remember how you made them feel. And your tonality, your body language, a lot of times has a lot to do with that. And it is really important that you're mindful about what you're going to say before you're going to say it so that you can think through it and even practice in the mirror. Look at yourself when you're saying that. And I know that that sounds so silly to people, but it really is helpful. I mean, even sometimes if I'm talking on the phone, I will look in the mirror purposely because I want to see how my face looks because it makes such a difference in what I'm saying and how it's received. So those are a big piece of communication. I mean, communication is a lot of things besides just talking.
Yeah.
Right. I was saying to a client actually not too long ago, I said, communication is listening. Like the silence is actually a part of the communication. Tonality is listening. Body language is well, not listening, but it's all a part of the
Receiving the whole
conversation.
conversation. Totally.
Exactly. So it is really important how we approach that. Again, if you could ask a question in two different ways and it could come across very differently. So we want to be very mindful of that so that we're not sounding like a real ass.
For sure. So you mentioned earlier about planting seeds everywhere you go. I love that concept, and that's a lot of what I do also. But how, without feeling like we're constantly talking about our business, like what's the best way that you would encourage somebody to do that?
Well, first of all, put yourself in places where the people that you're around can benefit from what you do, right? So be strategic and smart and efficient about where are you putting yourself around? Are you putting yourself in front of people who can benefit from what you do? And then are you talking at them or are you talking with them? Because I like to say be interested, not interesting. So if you're going around like the Johnny Appleseed of your business and you're just trying to tell everybody all the time, like that's not the way to plant seeds, right? Like, hey, you need me. Hey, you need me. Yes, there's a time and a place for you to talk about what you do, but when you act interested instead of acting interesting, what you're doing is allowing that other person to share about themselves. You'll find out so much information if you're just asking them questions and exploring. And what you'll ultimately find out is, are there opportunities here? Do they need me? Not from a place of here's what I do. Do you need me? Here's what I do. I can help you.
Right.
But take the time and really stay curious and ask questions and you'll uncover opportunities. And you could offer, again, if you're out planting seeds and you're communicating with people, you could have different offers or different ways for people to receive value from you. Hey, would it help if I sent you a yada yada to because you mentioned this, would it help if I sent you a checklist? That's something that I use and many of my clients have used to help them. Right. And so you're uncovering opportunities where you can serve and support that person and stay in the game. So once you've met somebody, the day you plant the seed is not the day you eat the fruit. Right. So if you're out planting seeds, it's not, I'm planting seeds because I hope to get a client right now. It goes back to what we said earlier. There's now buyers, soon buyers, later buyers. You might be talking to somebody that's at any stage of that at any given time. Are you planting seeds and asking questions that uncover opportunities for you to continue to stay front of mind and stay connected with that person and provide value.
Yeah. And so with the analogy of planting seeds, are you constantly following up with people, or do you find it's just a more natural progression of, okay, as I'm running into people, we reconnect?
Well, a big miss by a lot of salespeople, the fortune is in the follow-up. That is one of the biggest challenges for salespeople. And I mean, I'll raise my hand, myself included. I remember being new to sales and being like, oh my gosh, this is a real thing. Like, I have to keep track of all of these things. These are because you can't just naturally expect to know when you're supposed to follow up or remember, right? Like, we can't keep all this in our head because eventually you're going to have so much info up there that you're going to forget things. And it really is important in the trust building process to doing what you say you're going to do. So what I like to suggest to people is don't ever leave a conversation without a next step decided. And that's why I say when you're planting seeds, have something that you can offer people very easily. Hey, would it help if I sent you this? Hey, would it help if I'm doing a free training on that in a couple of weeks? Would it help if I sent you a free pass to it? When you have something that you've plugged in that gives you a reason to follow up, it becomes much easier. Now, your job is also to keep track of that because you don't want to let things slip through the cracks. So most definitely, I would say the biggest swing and miss with a lot of salespeople is that they are not taking the time to record things and then follow up. And by record, I just mean whatever your CRM is, whatever your tracking system is. Make sure that you know where you're at in conversations with people so that you know when you need to follow up.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was going to ask, do you have any systems that you recommend, or what have you found works really well in your career?
It's a great time to ask me that question because I am currently I'm in the market for a new CRM. So I've been trying out some different ones. I don't have one that I'm like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I recommend it to everybody because I think everybody's different, right? And it depends on your needs. It depends on what you want to do with it. In the online space, there are definitely some CRMs that specifically address what you're doing with your work on social media and online. If a lot of your work is in person, there's other CRMs that are a lot more beneficial for that. But honestly, depending on where you're at, a Google Sheet is not going to hurt. It's maybe not as sophisticated as some of the other things that are out there, but as long as you have a way right now to start to track some of these conversations and these things that you're doing, that's what's most important. I also will say for a long time, I used project management software for my CRM, and that worked just fine. Trello was the one that I used, but kind of depends on where you're at and how sophisticated you want to get. But at the end of the day, just make sure you're tracking it, whatever that looks like.
Yeah. And being consistent with it.
Yeah.
And how would you encourage business owners to have fun in their business again? So often we get so burnout, and especially in the sales world.
Well, joy really is a revenue generating activity. And it is very hard for us to believe that or buy into that sometimes because we live in a society that has conditioned us to work, 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 and we don't associate work and fun together. We have compartmentalized them, and we feel in many ways that they need to be separate. And I'm a firm believer that they should be happening at the same time. Like if you're having fun, not that there's not a time and a place, like there's things that we're going to do that we don't love in our business. But for the most part, if you're not enjoying it, you have to ask yourself, why am I still doing it? And is there a way I could do it differently? Is there a way I could do this with more fun? And as a matter of fact, this would be my advice. I did this years ago. I think it was 2019. I had started a Facebook group, and it was 2018 or 2019, doesn't matter. But I'd started a Facebook group, and I was really excited to start to build community and bring people in, but I wasn't showing up in there. I wasn't doing any live trainings. I just wasn't in there. And it felt like I had given myself another job, is kind of what it felt like, right? But I realized I've brought all these people together. I've got all these people in this community that want sales support. How can I make it more fun? If it feels like an obligation right now, if it feels like a job, what could I do that would make it more fun? And so I did a lot of soul searching. And that was at the end of that year, December, that I sat down and I was like, okay, universe, help me out here. How can I make this more fun? And I literally got an answer. And the universe said, start a speaker series. I was like, I don't know what a speaker series is, but I know a lot of really cool, amazing women. Why don't I just invite them to come in? And that would be a way for me to hold myself accountable. I love people. I love chatting with people. And if I'm so well connected to all these amazing women, why not tap into my network, have fun by bringing them into my group. They benefit from exposure. My group benefits from not just getting sales support from me, but whatever their expertise was. And then at least once a week, I'm going live. It was the most enjoyable thing that I had ever done. So it was 2020, all of 2020, I did a speaker series, and every week I had somebody come in. It created so much consistency in my business and so much joy for me, and connected me with even more people that I already knew, that it's like, that's what I mean about not compartmentalizing fun and work. It made my work fun and it blew up my business. So ask yourself, if you're not having fun right now, what could I do to make this more fun? How could this be more enjoyable? Or do I actually need to do it? Is there something different I could be doing? And it really, really is important. As a matter of fact, that's in my Nicole Cramer method, one of my principles that I teach on is celebration. And if we're not enjoying the ride, it's never unhappy, 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 happy ending, right? We don't live an unhappy life on the way to a happy ending. It's now. And so work is the same thing. Like, how can you enjoy it right now and do whatever it takes to get yourself there to that realization of what would make it more fun, and then go act on that.
I love that. Yeah. And so often, if we're not enjoying what we're doing, I love your suggestion of the speaker series, because it's awesome to bring in other people, whether it's letting somebody take the thing you hate off your plate or finding somebody else to make it enjoyable, like to just look at it differently and get a different perspective on it, which is just awesome.
Right. Which is so, so important sometimes, because we can't get out of our own way, right? We can't, what's the phrase that I always say? You can't, if you're in the frame, you can't see the picture. So yeah, getting somebody else's perspective and getting out of our own way is really important.
For sure. So you've accomplished a lot in your career and in your business and shifted into multiple avenues, but how do you define success? What does that look like to you?
I think that is a constantly evolving thing for me. And I would have defined it a lot differently even a year ago. I think what it really means for me now is, am I living life in a way that feels good to me, that is a fully expressed version of myself, that allows me to spend my time on this planet in a way that I am of service and I'm sharing my gifts and talents with the world and helping people. And I think that to me is really, because I would have defined it as a lot of different things. Do you have the house? Do you have the cars? Do you have the money? Do you have the successful business? And to be honest, there's still times where I'm having a tough time backing out of that. But as I've gotten older and as I've created all these different, areas of success in my life, I've realized it's not what I thought it used to be. And it's something a lot more simple. And a lot of that has to do with just showing up and being, sorry, let me do that one again. A lot of it really just has to do with, am I allowing myself to show up and be my true, honest, authentic self in every part of my life? And I think that really is success to me.
I love that. And if you could go back to your teacher self and give her a piece of advice, or what would you say to her looking back?
Don't work so hard. I mean, I'd say the same thing to myself nowadays. Like, I think that it's so easy to get caught up in that. And I think that is something I associated with success as well, right? You had to work super hard, but I'd give her a big hug. Looking back, I'm like, wow, she survived. And I think I'd just remind her, good stuff is on the way. It's all okay. It's all going to work out. It always has, and it always will.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's amazing how perspective can, shift the lens through the years.
Totally. Through the years or through the days.
Totally. Yeah, absolutely. Well, what can people expect from you next? You've got awesome things in the works.
Yes, I do. I have a lot of trainings lined up for what I'm doing with the Exactly What to Say work, which is really exciting and really incredible. And then I've got a couple of things going on right now in my business that are still under wraps, and probably within the next couple of months, I will be announcing those. I'm really excited to be creating some new offers and some new experiences for people. Part of that is just me getting even more dialed into my zone of genius and realizing, oh my gosh, I can get even more nuanced and specific here because this is an area where people really, really need support. So sales conversations are my jam, and that's where I'm really focused moving forward.
I love it. And where can listeners support you in your work if they want to come check it all out?
They can find me on Instagram at the Nicole Cramer. And anybody who wants, I have a discovery call template that is proven and amazing. It's made me hundreds of thousands of dollars. It's made my clients lots and lots of money. If you want a free copy of it, I'm happy to share it. So if you reach out and DM me on Instagram and just say discovery call template, I will be happy to share it with you and would love to hear from you and connect on there.
Awesome. And we'll have all the links below for people to come check you out. If you had the attention of the whole world for 5 minutes, what would you tell them?
My message in those 5 minutes, oh my gosh, it almost brought tears to my eyes right now, would be love more, slow down, don't work so hard. None of this is real anyways. None of it matters anyways. And hug the people you love and say it often. I think that would be it.
That is awesome. Very powerful. Well, thank you, Nicole. I appreciate you being on today.
Thank you.
Yeah.
This was awesome.
Totally. If you found value in this episode, please do share it. That's how people find us. And please do subscribe and follow us too. And you can find me at sevenfigurebuilder.com. And I look forward to seeing you in the next episode.